What makes a tractor legendary? Is it sales numbers, longevity, or is it something more? Sometimes the most revolutionary machines in agricultural history are the ones that failed. Today we're diving into 10 incredible farm tractors that had everything going for them: innovative engineering, bold design, passionate supporters, but still couldn't survive in the marketplace. These are the tractors that should have changed farming forever, but were gone before their time. Number 10. Ford FW60. Kicking off our list at number 10 is the Ford FW60, a tractor that symbolized Ford's bold ambition to break into the elite world of high-horsepower, four-wheel drive articulated tractors. Introduced in 1977, the FW60 was Ford's declaration that it wanted a seat at the same table as industry heavyweights like Steiger, Versatile, and John Deere. Until that point, Ford had been best known for its row crop and utility tractors, but the FW60 marked a dramatic shift toward large-scale, high-acreage farming machines. This was not a half-hearted effort. At the heart of the FW60 was a Cummins V8 diesel engine producing around 335 horsepower, an enormous figure for the late 90s. Ford didn't attempt to reinvent the wheel with an unproven power plant. They chose Cummins for a reason. The engine delivered massive torque, smooth power delivery, and the reliability demanded by farmers pulling massive plows, chisels, and air seeders across thousands of acres. Ford also partnered with Steiger, the undisputed leader in articulated tractor design at the time, to ensure the FW60 had proper weight distribution, articulation geometry, and structural strength. From an operator's perspective, the FW60 was impressive. The cab was spacious and comparatively comfortable for its era, with good visibility and reduced vibration compared to earlier big tractors. The articulated frame provided excellent traction and stability, allowing the tractor to put its power to the ground efficiently. On paper and in real-world field tests, the FW60 could absolutely compete with anything else in its horsepower class. So why did it fail? The answer lies not in engineering, but in timing and perception. By the late 1970s, the four-wheel drive market was already dominated by brands farmers deeply trusted. Steiger and Versatile had built their reputations exclusively on big articulated tractors, while John Deere had already established credibility with large-frame machines. Ford, despite its history, was seen by many as a newcomer in this specific segment. Farmers worried about long-term durability, parts availability, and whether Ford dealers were equipped to support machines of this size. Those concerns became even more valid when Ford exited the agricultural equipment business altogether, selling it to New Holland in 1983. The FW series disappeared almost overnight. In hindsight, the Ford FW60 deserved far more recognition. It was powerful, well-built, and genuinely competitive. Its failure wasn't due to poor design. It was a victim of late entry, market skepticism, and corporate exit. Today, surviving FW60s stand as reminders of what Ford could have become in the articulated tractor world if given more time. Number 9. Minneapolis-Moline G1000 Vista. At number 9 sits one of the most visually striking and conceptually daring tractors ever built, the Minneapolis-Moline G1000 Vista. Introduced in 1963, the Vista was unlike anything farmers had seen before. At a time when tractor design was conservative and familiar, Minneapolis-Moline dared to challenge everything about operator placement, visibility, and ergonomics. The defining feature of the G1000 Vista was its high-mounted cab, perched above the engine rather than behind it. This elevated position gave operators an unmatched panoramic view of the field, implements, and row alignment. The wraparound glass design provided visibility that most tractors wouldn't achieve until decades later. The concept was so forward-thinking that even today it feels modern. Powering the Vista was a 504 cubic inch six-cylinder engine, producing roughly 95 horsepower, which placed it solidly in the competitive range for large row crop tractors of the early 1960s. It wasn't underpowered, and it wasn't unreliable. Mechanically, the G1000 Vista was sound, built with Minneapolis-Moline's traditional emphasis on durability and torque-heavy engines. Yet despite its technical strengths, the Vista suffered from one critical flaw. It was too different. Farmers in the 1960s were practical, cautious, and deeply loyal to proven designs. The high cab made many operators feel exposed or unstable, even though the tractor's center of gravity was carefully engineered. The futuristic appearance clashed with the familiar silhouettes farmers trusted. It didn't feel safe, even if it actually was. Compounding the problem was Minneapolis-Moline's financial instability during this period. The company lacked the marketing budget and dealer influence needed to educate farmers about the benefits of the Vista's design. Without strong promotional support, the tractor struggled to gain acceptance. Production lasted only a few years before the Vista was quietly discontinued. Ironically, many of its ideas, improved visibility, operator comfort, ergonomic layout, would later become standard across the industry. Today, the G1000 Vista is highly collectible, admired not for its sales success, but for its bold vision. It represents a moment when Minneapolis-Moline tried to leap into the future, only to discover that the market wasn't ready to follow. Number 8. Allis-Chalmers 8550. Number 8 brings us to the Allis-Chalmers 8550, a tractor that should have been a defining success, but instead became one of the greatest casualties of economic disaster in agricultural history. Introduced in 1982, the 8550 was Allis-Chalmers' most serious attempt to establish itself as a dominant force in the high-horsepower, four-wheel drive articulated tractor market. The specifications were impressive. The 8550 was powered by a turbocharged Cummins diesel engine, producing approximately 325 horsepower, putting it squarely in competition with the biggest machines of its era. It featured strong hydraulics, heavy-duty driveline components, and an articulated frame designed for maximum traction and durability. The cab was roomy, functional, and comfortable by early 1980s standards, while the iconic Persian orange paint made it unmistakable in any field. From a performance standpoint, the 8550 delivered. Farmers who ran them praised their pulling power, reliability, and ability to handle massive implements day after day. This was not a poorly engineered tractor. It was one of the best Allis-Chalmers ever built. Unfortunately, the 8550 arrived at the worst possible time. The early 1980s farm crisis devastated North American agriculture. Land values collapsed, interest rates soared, and commodity prices fell sharply. Farmers weren't upgrading equipment, they were struggling to survive. Even the best tractors couldn't sell when buyers had no money. Allis-Chalmers was already financially weakened before the crisis, and the poor sales of the 8550 accelerated the company's decline. In 1985, Allis-Chalmers' agricultural division was acquired by Deutz, effectively ending the brand's independence. The 8550 was phased out shortly thereafter. Today, the Allis-Chalmers 8550 is remembered not as a failure of engineering, but as a victim of economic collapse. Those still operating them often swear by their toughness, proving that the tractor itself was never the problem. Number 7. Oliver 2655. At number 7, we find the Oliver 2655, a tractor that represents the final peak and tragic end of one of America's most respected tractor brands. Introduced in 1969, the 2655 was Oliver's flagship row crop tractor, designed to showcase everything the company had learned over decades of engineering excellence. Under the hood was a turbocharged six-cylinder engine producing around 146 horsepower, placing the 2655 firmly in the high-horsepower row crop category of its time. It featured advanced systems like the Hydra-power drive transmission, strong hydraulics, power steering, and a refined operator platform that emphasized usability and comfort. The tractor wore Oliver's iconic meadow green paint, a symbol of quality and tradition for loyal customers. Mechanically, the 2655 was excellent. It was powerful, durable, and capable of handling demanding fieldwork. Farmers who used them often praised their smooth operation and robust construction. By all rights, the 2655 should have been a cornerstone of Oliver's future. Instead, it became a casualty of corporate consolidation. Oliver had been acquired by White Motor Corporation in 1960, and by the early 1970s, White began merging Oliver, Minneapolis-Moline, and Cockshut into a single White brand. The Oliver name, along with its identity and loyal customer base, was erased by The 2655 never had the time to establish a lasting market presence. Production ended, not because farmers rejected it, but because the brand itself was eliminated. Today, the Oliver 265 is treasured by collectors as the last true Oliver tractor, a symbol of what the company might have achieved if allowed to continue independently. Number 6. International Harvester 5488. Coming in at number 6 is the International Harvester 5488, a tractor that perfectly symbolizes how a great machine can fail when the company behind it collapses. Released in 1981, the 5488 was part of IH's ambitious 88 series, designed to modernize the lineup and compete head-to-head with John Deere and other major manufacturers in the high-horsepower two-wheel drive market. Under the hood, the 5488 featured the legendary DT466 turbocharged diesel engine, producing around 160 horsepower. This engine was one of IH's greatest achievements: simple, durable, torque-heavy, and nearly impossible to kill. Even today, variations of the DT466 are still used in trucks, industrial equipment, and generators. On paper and in practice, the 5488 had everything farmers wanted: strong pulling power, excellent fuel efficiency for its size, and the kind of engine longevity that built IH's reputation. The tractor also introduced the control center cab, a major step forward in operator comfort. Visibility was excellent, noise levels were reduced, and controls were logically laid out. IH engineers clearly understood that farmers were spending long days in the seat and needed comfort just as much as horsepower. Hydraulics were strong, the chassis was robust, and the tractor handled large implements with confidence. But while the 5488 was launching, International Harvester was already collapsing. A devastating labor strike from 1979 to 1980 crippled production and drained financial reserves. Just as the company attempted to recover, the 1980s farm crisis hit. Sales dropped, dealers closed, and farmers began worrying about parts support and long-term service. Buying a new tractor is a long-term investment, and IH suddenly looked like a risky bet. Despite being a well-built and capable tractor, the 5488 was overshadowed by uncertainty. Farmers hesitated, not because the machine was bad, but because the future of IH was unclear. By 1985, IH sold its agricultural division to Tenneco, forming Case IH, and the 5488 quietly disappeared from the lineup. Today, the irony is undeniable. Many 5488s are still working hard on farms decades later, proving that the tractor itself was never the problem. It stands as a reminder that even excellent engineering cannot survive corporate collapse. Number 5. Massey Ferguson 4900 series. At number 5, we have the Massey Ferguson 4900 series, a short-lived but serious attempt by MF to compete in the high-horsepower articulated tractor market. Introduced in 1994, the 4900 series included models ranging from 280 to 400 horsepower, placing them squarely in the territory dominated by Case IH, John Deere, and New Holland. These were not experimental machines. The 4900 series tractors were powered by Cummins diesel engines, known for their reliability and torque. They featured large, comfortable cabs with excellent visibility, modern controls, and solid hydraulic systems capable of running massive air seeders and tillage equipment. Mechanically, they were sound tractors, built in partnership with Agco White, giving them proven engineering under the hood. On the field, the 4900 series performed well. Farmers who ran them reported strong pulling power, dependable drivetrains, and few major issues. In many ways, these tractors did exactly what they were supposed to do. So why did they fail? The problem wasn't performance, it was market positioning and brand perception. By the mid-1990s, the articulated four-wheel drive market was brutally competitive. Farmers spending money on 300-plus horsepower tractors wanted absolute confidence in dealer support, resale value, and long-term availability of parts. Brands like Case IH and John Deere had already cemented loyalty in this segment. Massey Ferguson, while respected for smaller tractors and mid-range equipment, struggled to convince farmers it belonged in the articulated heavyweight class. Dealer networks were inconsistent, and MF simply couldn't break into a market where trust mattered as much as horsepower. By 1999, the 4900 series was discontinued. It wasn't a bad tractor line. It was a capable machine that arrived in a market where loyalty and perception outweighed raw engineering. Today, the 4900 series remains a forgotten chapter in Massey Ferguson history, remembered mostly by those who actually ran them. Number 4. White American 60. Number 4 takes us back to the early 1960s with the white American 60, a tractor that showcased genuine innovation but suffered from chronic corporate indecision. Introduced in 1961, the American 60 was White Motor Corporation's entry into the compact utility tractor market, a segment that was quietly growing but not yet fully recognized. What made the American 60 unique was its rear-mounted engine design, which dramatically improved visibility and balance. This layout allowed operators to see implements more clearly, maneuver easily in tight spaces, and work effectively in orchards, vineyards, and specialty crop operations. For small farms and non-row crop work, the American 60 made a lot of sense. The tractor was well engineered, offering multiple PTO speeds, solid hydraulics for its size, and a comfortable operator platform. White didn't cheap out on components. This was a thoughtfully built machine, designed to be practical and durable. However, the problem wasn't the tractor. It was White Motor Corporation's management. During the 1960s, White constantly reorganized its tractor brands, shifting focus between Oliver, Minneapolis-Moline, and White-branded equipment. Marketing efforts were scattered, dealer messaging was inconsistent, and the American series never received sustained support. As a result, farmers were confused. Was White committed to compact tractors, or was this just another experiment? That uncertainty killed momentum. By the late 1960s, the American line was quietly discontinued. Today, the American 60 is rare and collectible, appreciated by enthusiasts who recognize how forward-thinking it was. It stands as proof that innovation alone isn't enough. Without consistent branding and long-term support, even good ideas can vanish. Number 3. Deutz-Allis 9150. Our number 3 spot goes to the Deutz-Allis 9150, a tractor doomed not by poor engineering, but by brand confusion and identity crisis. Introduced in the late 1980s, the 9150 was a four-wheel drive articulated tractor producing roughly 360 horsepower, aimed squarely at large-scale farming operations. Technically, the 9150 was impressive. It featured a Deutz air-cooled diesel engine, a major departure from the liquid-cooled designs farmers were used to. Air-cooled engines eliminated radiators, coolant leaks, and freezing issues, and Deutz had decades of experience with the technology in industrial applications. But farmers didn't trust it. Air-cooled engines sounded unfamiliar, looked unfamiliar, and felt risky in a field environment. On top of that, the Deutz-Allis brand itself confused buyers. Loyal Allis-Chalmers customers felt abandoned when the iconic Persian orange disappeared, replaced by green paint and German branding. New customers weren't sure if Deutz-Allis was a long-term player or just another temporary experiment. That uncertainty proved fatal. In 1990, Agkio acquired the brand and rebranded everything as Agkio-Allis, effectively ending Deutz-Allis overnight. The 915 disappeared, not because it failed mechanically, but because farmers never trusted the name behind it. Today, the 950 stands as a textbook example of how brand identity matters just as much as engineering and agriculture. Number 2. John Deere 80110. At number 2, we have one of the most shocking and fascinating failures in tractor history, the John Deere 801 and its successor, the 8020. What makes this story remarkable is simple. John Deere almost never fails, yet this machine came dangerously close to damaging the most trusted brand in agriculture. Introduced in 1959, the John Deere 8010 was the company's first ever four-wheel drive articulated tractor. This was uncharted territory. Until then, Deere had dominated row crop tractors, but high-horsepower articulated machines were something completely new. The 8010 was intended to leapfrog competitors and instantly establish John Deere as a leader in big farming equipment. On paper, the tractor was revolutionary. It produced 215 horsepower, an enormous number for its time, and was powered by a GM two-stroke diesel engine, an engine more commonly found in locomotives and marine applications. The tractor featured articulated steering, massive tires, and the raw pulling power large-scale farmers were demanding as farms expanded rapidly in the late 1950s. But the 801 was rushed to market. Field testing was inadequate, and serious flaws emerged almost immediately. The engine overheated constantly. Hydraulics failed under sustained load. The clutch simply couldn't handle the torque. Farmers who invested in this futuristic Deere quickly found themselves dealing with endless breakdowns, downtime, and frustration. John Deere acted quickly, but not quietly. The company issued recalls, bought back many 80110s, and in some cases destroyed them to protect the brand's reputation. A revised version, the 8020, was introduced in an attempt to fix the problems. While it was mechanically improved, the damage was already done. Farmers remembered the 80110 disaster, and trust was shaken. By 1964, both models were discontinued. Fewer than 100 units of the 8A10 were ever produced, making it one of the rarest Deere tractors in existence. Ironically, the lessons learned from this failure became the foundation for John Deere's later success in four-wheel drive tractors. Today, surviving 8A10s are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, making them some of the most valuable tractors ever built. It's the ultimate irony. The tractor that nearly embarrassed John Deere became one of the most prized machines in agricultural history. Number 1. Steiger Panther 1000. At number 1 sits the ultimate example of a tractor that was simply too powerful, too extreme, and too early. The Steiger Panther 1000. This was not just a tractor. It was a bold engineering statement that pushed the limits of what farm machinery could be. Introduced in 1975, the Panther 1000 was the most powerful production farm tractor ever built. Powered by a massive Caterpillar V12 diesel engine producing over 500 horsepower, this machine dwarfed everything else in the agricultural world. Weighing more than 50,000 pounds, it was capable of pulling implements that no other tractor could even attempt. Steiger, already the king of articulated tractors, designed the Panther 1000 with industrial-grade components throughout. The articulation system was massively reinforced to handle extreme stress. The hydraulics were closer to mining equipment than farm machinery. Every component was overbuilt because it had to be. Nothing else on the market came close to this level of power. But here's the problem. Almost nobody needed it. In the mid-1970s, only a handful of massive corporate farms in the Great Plains could even justify owning such a machine. The price alone, over $80,000 in 1975, equivalent to well over $400,000 today, put it out of reach for nearly everyone. Fuel consumption was enormous, maintenance costs were staggering, parts were expensive and often custom-made. Even large farms found the Panther 1000 to be excessive. Most implements weren't designed to handle that much power. The tractor's capabilities exceeded the infrastructure of the era. As a result, only an estimated 5 to 10 Panther 1000s were ever sold. Steiger quickly realized that the market simply didn't exist and quietly discontinued the model. Today, the Panther 1000 is legendary. It represents the absolute peak of mechanical ambition, a machine that proved how far engineering could go, even if practicality couldn't keep up. It stands as the ultimate what-if tractor, a symbol of an era when manufacturers weren't afraid to push boundaries, even if it meant building something the world wasn't ready for. So, there you have it. 10 legendary farm tractors that failed before their time. What's the common thread?